Welcome back to Conversation to Close. This is Sean, and today we're going to be showing you how to use the calculator when it's a hybrid. Now, hybrids can be a little confusing, but once you follow a couple of simple steps, a couple of processes, you'll be just fine. So, what is a hybrid deal? A hybrid deal is when there is a mortgage, but they also want way more money than the 10% that we could normally give them on a subject to. They want to sell their property for more than that. A great example is they have a mortgage balance of $175,000, but they're trying to sell their property for $400,000. So obviously we can't give them a $125,000 down payment and then subject to the rest. So what we would do is we would subject to the $175,000 mortgage, meaning our investor would pay that mortgage payment for them every month. And then for their equity, we would give them a down payment and then give them monthly payments for that. And by we, again, I mean the investor. The issue with hybrid deals is that a lot of times it is hard to cash flow a hybrid deal because the investor is being expected to pay not only the monthly mortgage payment, but also the seller financing payment. And then they get to cash flow whatever's left after taxes, insurance, their war chest comes out. Then we get to see what their cash on cash return is. So let's work a deal. So we're going to use the exact same one that we've been using in the series. So $218,000 is the purchase price. So now let's say that their mortgage is $100,000. We'll keep it very simple. So mortgage balance, $100,000. PITI, we will keep it at the same $1,200 a month. Oops. Interest rate, keep it the same, 3.5. The seller financed amount. So this confuses people. Here's the best way to figure out the seller financed amount. Now, when it's easy numbers like this, you can just figure it out. But what you want to do, grab your calculator on your phone, on your computer, whatever. You grab your calculator and you type in the total purchase price. In this case, it's $218,000. Then you subtract the mortgage amount. That's $100,000. Then you subtract the down payment. Now, in this situation, the most that we can give them is 10% down. That's our rule for creative deals across the board. Purchase price is $218,000, so the most we can give them is about $22,000. It's actually $21,800, but $22,000, an extra $200, that isn't going to do anything. So whatever's left is the seller financed amount. And in this case, in case you were following along, it's $96,000. That's the seller finance amount. And then the cash to seller, the down payment, $22,000. And then we're going to keep the same $1,650 for the rent. Now we're going to go to hybrid down here at the bottom. We're going to put the numbers in appropriately. So 1,200. We got 3.5. This we're going to put as 0 for now. So as you can see, you're already high on the entry percentage. And the other thing is you're very low on your cash on cash return. Remember, our minimum is 10%. You can try and push a deal on your own that's less than 10%. But for our investors, if you want to dispo with us, and what we found is that you need a minimum of a 10% cash on cash return in order for an investor to want to buy your deal. So straight off the bat, this deal is not going to work. But let's finish it out anyway. So $1,200 a month for the monthly mortgage payment. Now we owe, and again, by we, I mean the investor, owes the seller $96,000. That we have to come up with a monthly payment that'll make the seller happy and won't be too much of a burden cash flow wise, excuse me, for the buyer. So let's just start with $100. Now again, the deal doesn't work. It's already less than 10%. So let's do something a little more reasonable. Let's do $350. So as you can see, we're getting a negative cash on cash return. Now the fact that I had this at 0 and it's less than 10 means it's not a deal. Maybe you can sell it to a homestead buyer if the house was in really, really good shape, but it just recently been renovated, and the total between this number and this number equals to a little bit more or what rent currently is for the same size place, then yeah, you might be able to sell it to a homestead buyer. You just have to find a homestead buyer that has $36,500 cash on hand. So it's possible. You could definitely do it. But in essence, you want to put a number in here. This number you have to negotiate with the seller or the realtor, make sure they're okay with it, and then while keeping this at least 10%. That's why I've always said hybrid deals are harder to work, not harder to move. If they cash flow, they'll move just like any other creative deal, but they're harder to work because of the burden put on the investor and the fact that the numbers don't ever really work out to a 10% cash on cash return. It can, it absolutely can. But what I would suggest is that if you've got a hybrid deal, check the short term rental. Check to see if it'll cash flow better as a short-term rental. You should be running your short-term rental numbers for every deal anyway, because it's going to help you out on the disposition side. It's going to make your deal that much more attractive to more people if your deal works as a long-term rental and as a short-term rental. But if it doesn't work as a long-term rental, it may work as a short-term rental and you still have an opportunity to move it. And yes, there will be a completely separate video showing you how to run your numbers for a short-term rental. I always do AirDNA. So I will have a video posted on that. But in the meantime, this was how to break down a hybrid deal on the DealMachine Calculator. I hope you enjoyed. Leave your comments down below, like and subscribe. I hope you have a great rest of your day. I'll talk to you soon.